Hey everybody, it's Austin Ward. Welcome back to Lettermen Row headquarters. It's Lettermen Live, brought to you by Buyers Auto. Got the former Ohio State NFL star Beanie Wells in the building, talking about some off-season football. It's January. You know, there is no break. It's 365 days a year for the Buckeyes, and now they're in there with Coach Mick. Some things changed with that coaching staff, but that strength coach is still the same. You know that January is no joke.
No question about it. It's one of the important components to a football team, and they have that piece staying intact. And those guys know, now's the time for guys to start to separate themselves and get better.
What's the worst part about winter conditioning?
6 a.m. workouts. That's the absolute worst. Nobody wants to get up in the morning when it's negative 2 degrees outside and to go train.
What about the best part?
I don't know that there's a best part of winter workouts. I mean, outside of the fact that it's a time for you to kind of get better, add on that bulk or get leaner, do some things differently than you did the year before. I think this is always a perfect time to do so.
You know, I talked about it with that coaching staff change, Beanie. There's been a lot of movement. That defensive side of the ball is a dramatic overhaul. We talked about it throughout October, November, December. Is there going to be a shakeup? Greg Schiano. A lot of new names are in there.
Mm-hmm.
Greg Mattison, he's the headliner. You steal somebody like him and Al Washington from Michigan, that's going to get a lot of headlines there. So what do you make so far of what Ryan Day has done as he's kind of remolded this coaching staff?
I like it. I mean, I like the fact that he was able to go out and get guys. Although they were from a rival, those are two great football coaches. They're able to recruit. And I think we've seen Michigan's defense over the years be some of the top ranked in the country. So when you can get guys like that off the roster over there and hope they can bring the same enthusiasm, the same encouragement, the same coaching here to our staff and our program, I think it'll do wonders.
What do you think about that? You talked about the rivalry and getting those two guys away from Michigan and Harbaugh. I mean, did that strike you the wrong way? Do you think you avoid trying to get guys from Michigan, or do you like it because those are the two best coaches on that staff, arguably?
I think normally you probably avoid situations like that, but in this day and age where none of that matters, you're out just trying to get the best coaches and best players you can possibly get. I think it's a good situation. Why not? I mean, this is just another black eye for their head coach up there as he loses not only players year after year, but I mean he loses two of his greatest coaches on his staff to Ohio State.
Yeah, 0-4 and 62-39, not bad enough.
Exactly.
I guess that's the way it goes. We're going to talk to Birm a little bit later on here on Lettermen Live, brought to you by Buyers Auto. So we'll get into more Tate Martell and the quarterback recruiting stuff with him. But, he's another name that we talked about throughout all of last season, Beanie. And Tate Martell is now gone. Justin Fields is now in since the last time we've talked to you on here. What have you made with some of this also transition now with the quarterback battle?
You know what, man? I thought it was a little bit wild there for a couple of weeks. I mean, we had heard Tate Martell come out with all these comments and kind of pounding his chest and saying there's no need for him to come here because I'm still going to be the guy. And then all of a sudden he leaves in the dark of the night. I mean, I necessarily didn't like it.
Posted at like 1 a.m. Right?
Exactly. I didn't like it because I thought that he was going to be a guy that was going to come compete just based off everything that he tweeted and everything that we've gotten from the kid. But for him to leave at the site of competition, I don't like it. Unless there was a conversation had with him and Ryan Day and said, you know what, we're shifting our style of offense.
Right.
Then you maybe understand a little bit more. But we haven't heard that.
You talked about what Tate Martell said at the Rose Bowl. A lot's been made of that. One I think that's kind of gone under the radar a little bit, and I thought was interesting, is I talked to J.K. Dobbins, a guy that you've broken down several times on Buckeye Q. He said Ohio State is going to win the national championship next year. That optimism, I think, stems a little bit because he thinks his role is going to expand. I'm curious for a guy who's been through this. You're going to sophomore year, junior year, and ready for a bigger role and all that sort of thing. What's going to be the most important part for J.K. Dobbins to build and have a much better third year with the program?
I think one, staying healthy. I think that's always going to be critical for a running back. But I think more importantly is just him being ready to get the carries that he didn't get last year. And I think there were times where we saw J.K. kind of rush out there and maybe not go through his progressions and read the holes as much because he was trying to make the big play because he didn't know when he was going to get his next carry. Yeah. I think all that goes away. He knows he's going to be the marquee guy. He's going to get the 25 touches a game. So he's going to have ample opportunity to go out and put up those big numbers. So I think that gives a running back confidence, knowing that you're going to be the man.
Kind of shaking it up here with the offseason and trying to massage Lettermen Live, brought to you by Buyers Auto the best we can. We're going to cut Beanie loose. He gave us some of that insight on the offseason transition. Now we're going to shift gears. We're going to bring in Birm and talk a little bit recruiting here. And so, Beanie, thanks for joining us. Let's see what Birm's got to bring with us for Lettermen Live, Buyers Auto, with a little recruiting update. All right, let's throw it over to the recruiting Lettermen Row headquarters in Jeremy, Birmingham. It's Lettermen Live, brought to you by Buyers Auto. Birm already making some moves here in January. Ryan Day getting ready for this 2020 class. It's another offensive lineman. It's an Ohio kid. Tell me what it means with Jakob James offering his pledge to Ryan Day and the Buckeyes?
Well, it's big for Ohio State because it changes the way that they recruit the offensive line the entire rest of the 2020 cycle. You now have 3 commitments on the offensive line, 2 of them from Cincinnati. Ryan Day was very clear in December that he was going to make recruiting Ohio a priority. And this sort of offer, which went out on Monday and was accepted on Monday, is proof of that. This is not a kid that a year ago the Buckeyes would have offered. And I think that the real logic behind it was, what's going to change for Jakob James between now and May? And the answer was nothing. So he's went ahead and he's put on 30 pounds that they asked him to do since last June. They like who he is as a player. They like his versatility. They like the fact that he's really good footwork wise. They like a lot about him. And in previous years, they might have said, well, we know we can offer this kid 6 months from now and get him. But that has not proven to be the case because they lost on guys like Zeke Correll from Cincinnati Anderson, who went to Notre Dame. They missed on Nick Samac and J.D. Duplain, who ended up committing to Michigan State, even though the Buckeyes thought, hey, we could just go in and get him whenever. And it's not the same way anymore, especially recruiting offensive linemen who like to commit early because they're not really those diva guys that want all the attention. They want to find their spot and go. And I think it's a really good pickup, and especially because Jakob James in Cincinnati, in that area, this southwest part of the state in 2020 is very talent rich, and the Buckeyes want to make sure that they lock out other schools in that area.
Anytime this happens with Ohio State, especially the way that the recruiting has been elevated, the Urban Meyer era, and finishing in the top 2 or 3 in the country, everybody looks at the star rankings. I know how you feel about it. When you look at James, and you just said it was a good pickup, is there an upside to this kid? Is there more stars that could come because Ohio State wanted him early? Where do you see this kid, and why is it a better maybe fit or greater upside than maybe it looks just based purely on star rankings?
Yeah, I mean, the star ranking early is a kid because the evaluation period that happened for Jakob James happened when he was a 6'4", 245-pound offensive lineman. Life is a lot different when you're 6'4", 280 pounds, and you have an offer from Ohio State. So he also was offered by Michigan in December. Ed Warner is obviously a pretty good offensive line coach, as we know. He has 20 offers before Ohio State offered. Most of them have happened in the last 3 or 4 months once he started to put on the weight and once his junior film really showed what he's capable of. So that early ranking is indicative of camps and early evals that happened again when he was 30 pounds lighter and more looking like a tight end than an offensive guard or offensive tackle. So I think you will see him move into 4-star range in the next few months after people get the chance to see what he is now. But obviously, anytime Ohio State offers you and accepts a commitment from a player, that is a sign and should be enough for Buckeye fans to understand this kid can play at Ohio State. They do not send out pity offers. There are no goodwill offers from Ohio State, even at Ohio's best programs. If you get a Buckeye offer, you can play at Ohio State.
Birm's up there in Lettermen Row, recruiting headquarters. I'm downtown with Lettermen Live, brought to you by Byers Auto. Want to shift gears away from 2020 to the more pressing 2019 recruiting class and the deadline looming there for the signing period. And again, it's going to be the offensive line. And latest now, Birm with Doug Nestor, and then maybe somebody else who could be on the brink of joining this class.
Yeah, Doug Nestor continues to befuddle everyone around Ohio State. They don't know what it is that has him still looking at other schools. They have had the longest relationship with him. He's been committed for 18 months. He's taken 2 official visits. They've retained the offensive line coach that he was closest with. Obviously, losing Urban Meyer is a big deal. You can't discount that. And this kid is committed to Urban Meyer and is still learning and getting a relationship with Ryan Day. But the opportunity to play early at Ohio State is greater than anywhere else for an offensive guard right now. He's 2 hours away from his home, and staying close to home is a big deal for Doug. That's why he canceled his trip to Georgia that was scheduled. Everything that you could want, every box that needs to be checked off for Doug Nestor in Ohio State is checked off, yet he's still insisting on taking his official visit to Penn State this coming weekend. This will be his 3rd trip to Penn State since November. That obviously has people concerned. I personally think that Doug decided in December that he was not going to enroll early and wanted to make sure he was going to look around when all the Urban Meyer stuff happened, and then he retired. And I think now, even though he feels good about Ohio State and the word from his peers in Columbus are that he is comfortable and that they think he's going to stick, I think it'd be silly on him to not take this official visit, knowing that he gave up early enrollment to look around. So to me, it should be a matter of going there and say, hey, I'm doing my due diligence. I'm going to check and see what's out there. But I still feel like he's going to end up with the Buckeyes on signing day. But we won't know until signing day because he's already said he's not going to make any announcement unless if he's changing his mind, he's just going to sign somewhere else. And he's not going to make any announcement if he's not changing his mind. So, as is his right, offensive linemen, as I said, they are reclusive kids. They are always hard to read. They're always pretty direct with how they feel about things. But if they don't want to talk, then you can't force them to talk. So outside of Doug Nestor, who remains priority one for the Buckeyes, it's DeJuan Jones, an offensive lineman from Indianapolis, Ben Davis High School. He visited last weekend. I think the Buckeyes are in the lead position because he told me they are. But his mother, rumors, some people say she wants to be a little bit in a warmer climate. He's deciding on a final official visit between Florida and Penn State. If they're really interested in just going to get some warm weather, they'll head down to Gainesville for a visit. But USC also received an official visit in November. He's a guy Ryan Day and Kevin Wilson really like. Doesn't have a great relationship yet with Greg Studrara, but at 6'8", 360 pounds, and he's a basketball player, very good feet. They like what he could be potentially, but he's a couple years down the road, which is why it's so important that guys like Doug Nestor stay in this class, because Nestor's ability to move inside or outside give flexibility to help a guy like DeJuan Jones develop. And then finally, there's Enoch Vamahi, the offensive guard from Hawaii, who is visiting this coming weekend. I think this is going to come down to Ohio State, Oklahoma, and USC. Common thought is that USC will land him because that's where Samoan kids play football. But Ohio State is getting a visit from him. He canceled his plans to make an announcement on January 19th to make sure he could visit Ohio State. And I think that's telling, but it's going to be a situation where the Buckeyes need a grand slam on his official visit this weekend. And if they could get 45-degree weather instead of what's happening right now, it may.
You don't think
help.
that he wants some colder weather because he's tired of it out in Hawaii?
I don't think so.
I'm just trying to read the tea leaves here. DeJuan Jones maybe wants to see some warmer weather. He wants to come experience some snow. Who knows?
He might get to experience it, but experiencing it and wanting to live in it for 4 years is a totally different.
Hey, we all love it, don't we?
Or a quarter, 1 year. Let's be honest, it doesn't snow all year round. Columbus is a great town, and the Buckeyes are going to get a good shot at him, and that's all they can ask for. Offensive line is.
We didn't even get snow until January.
What? I know it's kind crazy. Offensive line is the only thing left in 2019 for the Buckeyes. They are not recruiting any other positions right now.
Offensive line only. That's why we go to Birm. He's got all that stuff, hashtag stuff every day at lettermenrow.com. It's dotting the I's. Don't want to miss it. You can also get it here now every week. We're always going to be talking to Birm about recruiting on Lettermen Live, brought to you by Buyers Auto. So for Birm, down there at his HQ, for Beanie Wells, who stopped by early on with us, and for me, I'm Austin Ward. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.